And good Monday to ya. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat here on Big X Sports Radio with Jim Coyle, Justin Kalen, High Top Crew Chiefs Box.
That's right.
Keeping us rolling around the track. Hope you had a great weekend. Weekend 2 of college football in the books. A rainy event at most places. I'll say that, especially in Bloomington for certain, where I was. It rained the entire time. I was waiting for Noah's Ark to come by. I was going to hitch a ride. But it wasn't as bad as it could have been. At least it was a steady rain. It didn't speed up, slow down. It stayed the same. So at least the teams were able to get into a rhythm. At least it didn't disrupt the game. There weren't any delays. No lightning delays. That made it bearable because the game didn't get over until, I don't even know what time it was to begin with, 11 o'clock or whatever. Rather late.
It was pretty late.
Rather late. But Indiana picks up a needed win over Virginia to go 2-0 on the season. We got all that to talk about. We've got a big show today. We've got tons to get to. We got Drew Davis, Sammy Jacobs, recruiting news, John Boel, and, of course, Don Fischer. But before we do all that, let's get to the headlines with Justin.
All right, here are your headlines for this Monday, September 10th, brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Lunch special today, barbecue ribs, cheesy potatoes, and coleslaw for $6.99. Serena Williams loses the U.S. Open in the championship after being accused of being coached. Novak Djokovic wins on the men's side. Steelers-Browns record the first opening week tie since 1971. Kentucky ends a 31-game losing streak to Florida in college football. PGA's BMW Championship suspended due to weather will resume today. And same thing with NASCAR, as the Brickyard 400 was suspended until today as well. Those are your headlines for this September 10th, brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Make sure you stop in for your high breakfast, fill your gas tank, or hit up their $6.99 barbecue ribs, cheesy potatoes, and coleslaw lunch special.
Absolutely. We had a big weekend. Kentucky, huge win for them.
There's a lot going on this weekend in terms of sports.
Improbable win for Kentucky. They probably should have beaten Florida a couple times in the last couple of years. Couldn't get it done. Not one of the easier ways this year to go on the road and do it, especially with new coach Dan Mullen down there. A little surprising. Just as much as it's surprising to see Purdue go 0-2 on the year. Huge loss to who'd they play? Eastern Michigan?
Yes, sir.
Who is that? Eastern Michigan. That's what I thought I said. Wow.
No, Purdue shot themselves in the foot in that game. Did you see the end of that one?
I did not.
They
Purdue, Eastern Michigan was not high on my priority list of watching.
I don't blame you. But no, Purdue, Eastern Michigan was out of field goal range. They were down 2. And then after one of the plays, a Purdue guy, just like an idiot, guy's on the ground, jumps on top of him, pummels him to the ground.
Did you just
again.
say Purdue an idiot in the same sentence?
You never heard it, right?
Yeah.
But no, just slams him against the ground. It's, my gosh, Purdue gave that game away. But I'm with you. It's funny.
It's yeah. And in Indiana, Virginia. That was just the rain did not stop. You couldn't tell on TV. Every time I was watching something, you couldn't see the rain, but it was pouring the whole time.
I wouldn't know. I didn't get to watch it on TV.
Why not?
Because it was pouring here the whole time, and all the satellites were out. Cable was out. I had to listen to Don Fischer. I couldn't even watch the game.
Huh. Well, I have YouTube TV. I never had a problem with it, and I was at the game even.
Well, you should have gave me your YouTube TV login.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, a good game for Indiana. They come away with a win, 20-16 in the game. It wasn't as close as the score. It wasn't. Indiana was never really in danger of losing that game. Now, Virginia did drive and have some shots into the end zone from like the 40 at the end of the game. Uh-huh. But for the most part, the defense, they stepped up. They kept Virginia at bay. The quarterback Perkins. He ran wild, but he ended up with 135 yards rushing, I think, on the game.
Wow.
But he was it for them. They had 297 yards total offense for the game. So the defense stepped up. Indiana's offense, they did okay. It was a driving rainstorm, so you can't get a lot from it. But I watched that game again, and Peyton Ramsey was lucky to not be intercepted several times on some passes he threw. I still, and you didn't see Michael Penix at all, of course, because of the rain. I'm sure with the issue of afraid of turnovers because the ball security was of utmost importance. But I'm like, why is the great fear of him and turnovers? And I'm not. Sammy Jacobs will be on the program today. I'm going to talk to him about that because the name of the game that day was Stevie Scott. Man. Goes off for 204 yards rushing, 31 attempts, 3 yards short of breaking Anthony Thompson's freshman rushing record of 207.
Think he was upset about that?
Stevie?
Yeah.
Probably because he said afterwards I asked him about it, and he said he left a lot of yards on the field. And he's potentially right. But what a performance. Breakout performance for the freshman. You know, early on, everybody was talking about Ronnie Walker. Never heard a word about Stevie Scott. Till fall camp rolled around, and all of a sudden, who's Stevie Scott? Who's Stevie Scott? Then you kept hearing it more and more, and Indiana lost their number ones and their numbers 1 and 2 running backs. And Stevie Scott has been forced to step up, and he has done so. Man, wow.
Yeah, he's a big body. He reminds me a lot of Morgan Ellison.
Yeah, there's some similarities, but the running styles are just a lot different.
Yeah.
But what a performance by Stevie Scott. 203 yards, freshman, his opening home game. Something good to look forward to. Especially when they had to rely on that running game so much. It was pretty difficult passing the ball, I would imagine, in those conditions. I mean, it was raining the whole time. Although Peyton Manning was like, I think it was
Peyton Ramsey.
Oh gosh, nobody should ever be allowed to be named Peyton. It just comes out naturally. I'm just gonna start calling him by his last name, Ramsey.
There you go,
Ramsey. Indiana did have 150 passing yards. He was 22 of 16 with one pick, but that one pick, my gosh, I don't know who else could have caught it. He just flung it up. And I rewatched this game, and there was at least 3 other times he could have been picked. So it could have been another way around. The punting, our man Whitehead, he did a great job punting the ball.
Yeah, he had a couple really good ones.
He put Virginia in some precarious positions a couple times. So that kept things going. But then a lot of other games. What did Louisville do? I didn't see what Louisville did over the weekend.
I believe they won. Yeah, they were. It was a game. They played Indiana State. I think it was a tie game at halftime. And then Louisville takes out Juwan Pass, puts in Cunningham, their backup quarterback, and he leads them, I think, to a 33-7 win.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So now there's a quarterback controversy down there in Louisville?
It's looking like it.
I didn't even know they had a backup worthy of
31-7, my fault.
That was over Indiana State.
Yeah. Yeah, Malik Cunningham, the guy that came in the second half. That might have actually even been in the fourth quarter. They might have been tied 7-7 through 3.
Wow. That would be something. Well, in high school, and across the state, some of the big games, Warren Central, 4 weeks into the season, pretty clear cut that they're the best team to beat in 6A. Romeo Elliott's 344 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns highlighted a dominant 47 win over Lawrence Central last Friday.
Wow.
The Warriors should be geared up and ready Friday when Ben Davis visits. Wow. Both teams, having beaten Trinity and Louisville, now take on each other. But Ben Davis has a loss, I believe, already.
They took on Center Grove this weekend.
How'd that turn out for them?
That's a great question. I was thinking it might have been their loss.
Brownsburg handled Avon 21-7. An impressive defensive performance. Avon is number 3. Brownsburg's number 2. Avon's number 3. These top teams playing each other. It's unbelievable.
It's good football.
Center Grove 29-22 over Ben Davis. There you go.
Yep.
So it was Carmel, not Ben Davis, that played Trinity this year. Right?
Right. Yeah, I didn't think Ben Davis had played them.
Dylan Drowning rushed for 155 yards and a touchdown. Carmel rolled over Pike. So the big boys. Down here, a great game Friday night. You were on the call for the New Albany Bedford call. That was a great game. Bedford wins that in a walk-off.
Not often you see a football walk-off.
Not very often. New Palestine's number 1 in the 4A, or 5A rather, poll. Martinsville's number 2. Decatur Central 3. We've got the college poll is out already. We're going to get to that in our next segment.
Also, get your text in the show, 502-414-1450. Let us know what you thought about IU.
Absolutely. Everything that went on over the weekend, whatever kind of a game it was, what's going on with you, what your thoughts are. Hit us up. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to we've got a packed program today. Drew Davis, there's a lot of recruitment talk over the weekend. Indiana Coach Archie Miller in-home visits with Keon Brooks, Trace Jackson Davis, Isaiah Stewart. Busy guy. Also, Christian Lander receives a scholarship offer from Indiana. We'll talk about all that as well with Drew. We've got Sammy Jacobs on from Hoosier Huddle, so we will recap the Indiana-Virginia game. John Boel from Wave 3. And Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, as well, as always, here on Monday. All that and more. Stay tuned. Coming right back here on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Days when you wish your bed was already made. It's just another manic Monday. Wish it was Sunday. That's my fun day.
If you're a homeowner and have storm damage to your roof, you want a hometown contractor you can count on and trust. Brooks Roofing of New Albany has been doing quality work since 2006. Check out their work for yourself at brooksroofingin.com. No job is too big or too small, commercial or residential. Brooks Roofing is probably working in your neighborhood right now. Visit brooksroofingin.com or call 812-868-ROOF. That's 812-868-ROOF. Brooks Roofing, the protection you need when nature strikes. Welcome back to the program, Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here on a Monday. Good day to you. Hope you had a great weekend and your day is off to a good start. We appreciate you joining us. We know that you have a lot of options, so thanks a lot for taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. Justin Kalen high atop the crew chief's box, keeping the engine rolling.
That's right.
Big college football weekend, weekend number 2 in the books. Indiana Hoosiers took on Virginia. Big day for Stevie Scott. Breakout performance for that young man, a true freshman. He rushes 31 times, picks up 204 yards on the ground, 3 yards short of Anthony Thompson's freshman rushing record. After the game, you got to talk to Stevie Scott. Hear what he had to say.
I know you don't play for numbers, but you finished 3 yards short of Anthony Thompson's freshman rushing record. That's got to be pretty special.
Well, it's pretty special, but I know I left a lot of hidden yards on the field that I could have possibly broke the record. So during this next week of practice, I'm just going to go hard, picking my feet up, doing ropes, drills, and everything just to help myself.
Coach mentioned he challenged the offensive line this week. What did you see the difference between last week and this week?
Offensive line was very aggressive. I can definitely say that. They were definitely leading the way. I give all props to them. Really big shout out to them.
What's been the sense of
That was Stevie Scott. Running back for Indiana Hoosiers. Big day for him. 203 yards, almost breaks Anthony Thompson's 32-year-old freshman rushing record, but falls 3 yards short. But of course, he very confident. Said he's going to go back and look at things because he left a lot of yards on the field. That's a great way of looking at it. A good attitude for him to take. The top 25 out. Not a lot of shakeup, I guess you'd say, in the poll. Alabama's at the top, of course. They rioted over Arkansas State. They received 59 of 63 first-place votes because Clemson somehow still got 3 votes, even though they barely escaped Texas A&M with a win. Those 3 guys that are still voting them number 1, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. You're obviously from Clemson, South Carolina. But they barely, Jimbo Fisher and Dabo Sweeney back at it, matching up hook and horns. I think Jimbo was 4-4 against Dabo before that.
Yeah.
But they were Texas A&M was a 12-point underdog in that game. So big game for A&M. It shows that he's already made some strides with that program.
Yeah, that game was a lot of fun. That was one of the ones I did get to watch. I really enjoyed that one. Now, I didn't get to watch as much of it as I would have liked, but, yeah, there was a number of really good football games this Saturday.
Yeah, I didn't get to see anything. I was traveling or I was sitting up in the rain and up in Bloomington.
She got to stay dry.
Once
For the
I
most
got
part.
there.
Yeah.
That's a long walk through wading through waters. Yeah, I next time I'm taking an extra pair of shoes and socks.
Could have been one of the students that was just sitting in the stands.
Hey,
Speaking
hats
of,
off.
how about that, Tom Allen going over the stands?
I didn't.
Have you not seen the video?
No.
Oh, we're going to watch it during break, and you're going to laugh your head off.
Well, whatever it is, it's more than deserving because when the gates opened, they were standing outside, first of all, waiting for the gates to open. Impressive, first of all, number one. They were waiting for the gates to open. The gates open, they're in. So that's what, an hour and a half before the game?
Yep.
They're in. They're down at their seats standing the whole time. A block of, 1,000 maybe. But just unbelievable because they're all in the block together. And it was like, wow. And they were there the whole time. They should have, I said, I think I posted, they must be out there they deserve free coffee with something extra.
Yeah.
But yeah, hats off, man. And actually, hats off to any fan, all the fans that stood there. There was more than I thought.
No doubt.
I can't see everybody below me because it's up in the press box. So there was quite a few spread out below there as well. So I was rather surprised on how many people made it. Because it wasn't just, it didn't start raining during the game. It was already raining.
No, I mean, it was raining at 6 o'clock that morning.
It didn't stop raining the whole time. And these people just got prepared, went out and got with it, man.
Yeah, I saw a picture during the game, and I actually pulled it up, and I showed one of my buddies. I was like, look at this. That ain't bad. For it raining all day in Bloomington, that ain't bad. I mean, there was a pretty significant amount of people there, and yeah, I agree with you. Hats off to them for sticking it out through the rain on what was one of the ugliest days of the year.
Georgia stays at number 3, Ohio State. They picked up a single first-place nod. They're number 4. Oklahoma's number 5. Virginia Tech, the Hokies, they nudge ahead of Washington into the number 11 spot. They handled William and Mary. How about Michigan State? They're the highest-ranked team to lose over the weekend. The Spartans tumble 11 positions to number 24 after a last-second loss to Arizona State and Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. Well, they won the game. The Sun Devils enter at number 25 thanks to that win. Oklahoma State, the Cowboys climb 4 spots to number 19. Boise State's coming into Stillwater next weekend. That ought to be a nice little showdown.
Yep.
USC, Southern Cal, the Trojans throttled by number 9 Stanford. They fell 9 spots to number 21. And Coach Ed Orgeron and the LSU Bengal Tigers check in at number 13 on the eve of our showdown with number 7 Auburn.
Well, Michigan, what happened to them?
They won.
I know they won. What happened to them in the rankings?
I don't know. I don't have the full. It's number 23 Oregon, number 25 Oregon, Arizona State rather are back in. South Carolina and Florida, both from the SEC, out. Florida after losing to Kentucky. That was what, a 28-year? How long had it been?
Oh, I think since 87, 31 year.
But yeah, Kentucky hadn't beaten them, period. And how long since they had beat them in Florida?
Probably even longer.
It should be. It may have been the same time. Who knows?
Yeah. See if I can't find it.
But huge win for Kentucky in that regard.
Absolutely.
I didn't see much. I didn't even know that until afterwards.
You know, I didn't either. I had completely forgot about
Well, I
that
didn't
game.
forget. I was in Bloomington at the game.
I just forgot.
Shocker. But
Wouldn't have been on anyways.
this week, and in Ball State played Notre Dame,
Yeah.
and that wasn't exactly a blowout. What was the final? 24-16 or something?
Yeah.
So Ball State loses by 9, or rather by 8 to Notre Dame, the team that's coming into Bloomington next week.
Is that more? I know you didn't get to watch it, but does the hearing the score line, does Ball State impress you more, or
Yes.
are you disappointed by Notre Dame?
Both. Notre Dame should be handling Ball State no matter what, unless Ball State is just like crazy good, which I find that hard to believe. But it's a week after a huge game for them over a huge win over Michigan. I know people don't understand, but it's hard to stay up like that week after week after week.
Yeah, sure.
But that's kind of close.
Maybe we got it wrong all along. Maybe it's the Ball State game we should have been watching out for and not Michigan State, because Michigan State does not look very good.
No, but Indiana's got to pick it up on offense.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about this with Sammy, but I'm still not sold on Peyton Ramsey at quarterback. I'm just not. I think they're just going to be average. I think they're going to do okay. They were doing the same things last night, and I know it was or Saturday. I know it was raining, but when you got a 3rd and 12, and you throw a 5-yard pass hoping to get 7 yards after the catch every time, drives me insane. Every now and then it's okay, but that's all they did last year against Purdue, and a lot of times because that's what his ceiling is. That's his capabilities. He threw some passes. Now, he did go downfield. He drew a flag on one. He was intercepted once. He should have been intercepted about 3 times. Of course, was that the rain? Maybe, but I don't know, man. I just don't know.
How was the new enclosed stadium?
It looks very nice, very cool. It's got I can't imagine how loud it's going to be when it's actually full, because it sounded loud whenever you'd hear they'd go down to the referee's microphone. It was kind of loud sounding just in that. I'm like, wow, and I could see how many people were there. I'm like, wow. So that sound is going to be bouncing in off the walls. That'll be crazy good, crazy fun.
Should help.
It'll be a lot of fun. But and another thing, though, as much as it rained, the water was very not a factor on the field. I didn't see anybody slipping, falling hardly. Pretty incredible.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything on the broadcast either about Don Fischer saying anything. I mean, it seemed like everybody got pretty good traction, but the turf helps.
Other than the rain in your face, maybe catching a ball and throwing it and stuff like that, seriously, it didn't seem to have much of an effect. I mean, you could pile up 200 yards rushing. It didn't slow Stevie Scott down much.
Which is kind of surprising, because the little bit of the game I did get to watch when it was on TV, it was not raining lightly. I mean, that was a hard rain, a constant rain. So for them to be able to go out and execute in that type of rain was quite impressive to me.
Yeah, I was not. I was a little surprised myself, but the passing, I a little surprised that they went downfield a little bit more than I thought they would. at least attempted to. It wasn't, not that it was a lot, but the ones they did, a little scary. The running game was definitely working, but it was all Stevie Scott.
Yeah.
Stevie Scott. Mike Paget would come in, but I don't know if he ever touched the ball. But this upcoming week will be a good test. I've got to see the Notre Dame Ball State game. I haven't really gotten to go over that to see did Ball State play great? Did Notre Dame play badly? I haven't gotten to review that much yet. So,
Combo of both.
but Indiana's defense played a lot better. They didn't give up any passing yards. Now, that guy that was playing quarterback, Perkins, for Virginia, he was also recruited by Indiana.
Oh, yeah?
He came by out of the JUCO, out of Arizona, no less. So one of the things I heard Don Fischer say that, one of the Big Ten announcers was that he was really wanting to show Indiana that they made a mistake on passing on him.
About that.
Wouldn't mind have seen him run around the field. He was pretty good running the ball. Now, I don't know about throwing the ball. I don't know how good he is. But he did throw 2 touchdown passes. So, there is that.
A couple texts in the show, 502-414-1450 if you want to do the same. Joker texts in and says, Stevie Scott's touchdown run reminded me of what the Great Dane used to do to the IU defense.
Yeah, a miniature Ron Dane. Wow. He was a big boy. Now, that was a load there. You better pack your lunch.
And he also said, what happened to Purdue's Heisman Trophy candidate, Rondale Moore, in the Purdue loss?
What did he do?
Not a whole lot of anything.
Just curious. I was curious. The new superstar, Stevie Scott's going to be the freshman of the week, that's for sure. Offensive player of the week, probably, that's for sure, in the Big Ten. Maybe in the he's probably going to be the freshman of the week in the country, I'd say.
Perhaps.
Big outing.
Rondale Moore had 49 rushing yards on 2 carries and 16 receiving yards on 3 catches. So a whole lot of nothing compared to last week.
Well, he didn't get any touches. So 20 yards a touch on the rushing is not bad. He got 40, how many? 40 what?
49.
Okay, so that's 25 yards a carry.
Not bad.
I'd be giving him the ball a little bit more often, sounds like.
JR texts in and says, Ramsey floated every ball down the field. Every deep ball would get picked in the Big Ten.
Every one of those, I agree. Every one of them would have been picked. He just lobbed them up there, every one of them. Well, let's. When we come back, we're going to have Drew Davis from Peegs.com. We've got some recruiting talk to get to. Lots of in-home visits this weekend by Archie Miller and the Indiana staff. Keon Brooks, Trace Jackson Davis, and Isaiah Stewart. So a huge weekend. And an offer extended to Christian Lander. We'll get to all that and more with Drew Davis right after this. Stay tuned here on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. We'll be right back. This is Jim Coyle. When I'm not on the road covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 on the northeast side of I-65 at Veterans Parkway in Clarksville. Bring the team in for that post-win meal in the family dining area or just meet friends for happy hour. Bubba's has bold burgers, hand-tossed pizzas, mouth-watering wings, and a list of select local craft brewers for the coldest beer in town. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Burgers, pizza, beer. Today's guest is brought to you by Brooks Roofing, the protection you need when Mother Nature strikes. BrooksRoofingIN.com. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here on Big X Sports Radio, joined now by Drew Davis from Peegs.com. Drew, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Good. I'm dried out from the from the weekend soaking at IU at the football game. Finally got dry. Talked a little basketball. Big weekend for the Hoosiers. Archie Miller, a busy weekend.
Yeah, a very busy weekend. You have a couple in-home visits. a visitor to campus, and Indiana actually did only did 2 in-home visits yesterday. They did Isaiah Stewart and Keon Brooks, and with the travel back from Iowa, schedules just didn't quite line up, so they just are going to go ahead and reschedule with Trace, and no big deal, just move it to a different day that works better for him.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a lot to squeeze in on the weekend. Plus, he's coming into Hoosier Hysteria in less than a month now, so they've got a few weeks. I'm sure they can get something rescheduled. How did those visits go? Have you heard anything?
I'm told that Isaiah Stewart and Keon Brooks' in-home visits went well, as most of these visits do. At this point, especially for Keon and Trace, but it's not so much about a sales pitch at this point. It's more so about just continuing to build your relationship and just more so talking during those visits than, oh, you got to see this, you got to see that.
This is isn't this more of a time for the coaching staff and the families to bond, to get to know each other, to get a better understanding of what each other is looking for, of what they can expect, things like that?
Yeah, most definitely, especially with these visits when you've been recruiting a guy for a while. Last year with Keon, now those official visits or those in-home visits were, probably a lot different. They were probably more of a presentation, show them what you have more so than just, just talking. But that's kind of where the visit is now. You just continue to build your relationship and, just strengthen it.
And I know that recently Trace Jackson, there was an article, I think it was an Iowa paper, that they're asking him about being a lock to Indiana because everyone's saying he's going to Indiana, yada, yada, which he probably is. But he made sure to go out of his way to say he's not a lock for anywhere, which I guess I understand. But it's like, who cares what somebody thinks, whether you're a lock for? But is that he seems like getting a little bothersome for him.
Yeah, I think Trace definitely getting a little annoyed with the perception that he is an Indiana lock. I think, like any kid, he wants to go through the process, and if he does go to Indiana, which seems to be, where all signs are pointing, he doesn't want it to just be assumed. He wants to have that moment, I guess, like everyone does.
Yeah, and while it could be assumed, it doesn't really matter for one. But secondly, everything's changed. I mean, kids change their mind. Things change their mind for them. Sometimes they go on a trip and they're like, their expectations are different, and they come away with a different mentality. So you never know what someone's going to do, especially in the mind of an 18-year-old kid.
Yeah, they could change their mind with a snap of a finger. Like, I don't expect this to happen, but Trace could go on a visit and just completely change his mind. But like I said, I still just I would be very surprised if that were to happen.
That's what Christian Lander, the 5-star sophomore from Evansville, writes. We talked a lot about. You talk a lot about. You follow him. He's close to your area. He received an offer from Indiana over the weekend. Now adds offers from Illinois, Purdue, and other places. Michigan, maybe. I'm not sure. I think. But the offer that was long expected for Christian, it finally came this weekend.
Yeah, from talking to Christian's dad, that was an offer that they were kind of surprised came this early because they said everything they had been told, and the IU staff likes to wait on those. But when you have a player of his caliber and he's in Southern Indiana, it's always good to get a head start or somewhat of a head start or building that relationship if you're the staff. And he's able to take a visit to Indiana this weekend as the only kid on campus, with Brandon Newman ended up not coming down, which resulted in more attention and face time for Christian. It was raining, so they didn't get to do too much on their visit. They were kind of restricted to being inside, but They're going to spend a lot of quality face time with the staff, and was with Archie Miller throughout the entire day. And they really enjoyed the visit and getting to know the staff, and they felt like they were able to actually sit in on a workout and see some things there, and they just really felt like it was a good unofficial visit, and they learned a lot. And I know the offer part was definitely exciting for them, and it'll be interesting to see where things go from Christian now. But he has Christian has 3 Big Ten offers: Purdue, Illinois, and Indiana. And then he has an offer from IUPUI. That was his first offer. So 4 D1 offers now, and he's visited Louisville, and he's looking at going some other places once a couple other things get finalized.
Yeah, I believe he's going to Midnight Madness in Lexington, I believe. I read somewhere. He's scheduled to go to that as well. But getting back to Trace Jackson and Keon Brooks, now that the home offers or home visits have taken place, at least not for Trace yet, but for the others, and once they get through Hoosier Hysteria and that visit, is it possible for a commitment? I mean, I know it's possible, but is it likely for a commitment to come from either of those two shortly after Hoosier Hysteria? Is it going to be something for both of them that carries into the spring period?
For Trace, I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen. Just based off the schedule of his visits, I think he may be close to being done with his officials after Hoosier Hysteria. I'm off the top of my head, I'm not too sure on that. I know he has the Wake Forest official visit. I think that's before Hoosier Hysteria, but I could be wrong on that. I just don't remember the date off the top of my head. But with Keon, I would expect him I wouldn't expect him to commit after Hoosier Hysteria. I think he has a couple more visits, and I think he wants to go through those and then kind of decide in November. Keon would love to have it done by the fall, and then he knows where he wants to go. He'll decide. But he said he's not against going to the spring if he has to, because he doesn't want to rush into a decision.
And where does Isaiah Stewart fit into all this? With you got Trace Jackson and Keon bookending there with the only 2 available perceived scholarships available, I guess I should say. Where does Isaiah Stewart fit into this?
Yeah, obviously Indiana would take all 3 of them, and they could take all 3 of them, but it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Isaiah. Indiana's kind of there in that second tier of teams where Villanova and Michigan State's kind of up there in tier 1, and then Indiana's kind of in that next group of schools. So they've been pushing hard for Isaiah, but I don't know how well him and Trace necessarily fit together on the court together, because they operate in a lot of the same space, and that can be kind of tough sometimes. But at the same time, Indiana, it kind of depends what happens with Deron Davis, if he's able to, come back healthy or not. But if Deron isn't able to come back healthy, Indiana is likely to be looking for some front court minutes from somebody next year.
Anything else going on that I'm not aware of happening out there on the recruiting trail?
Well, Indiana's going to be hitting the road, as the live period, kind of starts, or where not necessarily the live period, but where coaches can get out and see prospects. So I expect things to be busy. Things pop up a lot where they'll go out to a high school and visit a kid. I expect them to, kind of make the rounds on that here in the next couple of weeks.
It's a busy season as the preseason draws closer and closer to us, with Hoosier Hysteria just a few weeks away now on September 29th, and the start of the basketball season shortly thereafter. Looking forward to getting going and things starting to pick up as we get there.
Almost definitely. Hoosier Hysteria coming up on the 29th, and it's nice to finally have things kind of rolling again.
Drew Davis and Peegs.com. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll look forward to catching back up again soon. Drew, thanks you very much, brother.
All right, man. I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you. Drew Davis and Peegs.com. Check out his stuff there. You can get it. Lots going on right now. It's a busy time of the year, Justin.
Let me turn my mic on there. Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking during that interview as he's talking about Archie Miller going on all these visits. Is there one person that you wouldn't want in your fantasy football league more than Archie Miller? He seems like that type of guy that you're going to have to remind, Coach, fill out your lineup. Make sure, fill out your lineup. Nah, I got to go visit these kids. That's all I can think about.
Yeah, I wouldn't want any coach.
It's the first Sunday of NFL season, and this guy's doing 3 in-home visits.
If there's a coach that has time to do a fantasy football, I don't want him. No, those guys are nuts. That's how they live.
It's just crazy how much they have to travel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just think about when it's the real recruiting season.
Yeah.
I mean, remember when they were bouncing back and forth from California to Milwaukee to New York to
back to Vegas,
wherever, all over in between. It is just a litany of places to go and things to do, and it's kind of ridiculous how it's gotten to that point. Everybody one-upping everybody, but that's where we are, and that's how it is. But at least the in-home visits coming from 3 kids that go to school in Indiana.
Yeah.
So that helped. But of course, 2 of them were at Lalamure Academy up in northern Indiana. Keon Brooks, of course, is from Fort Wayne, which that makes it easier. I'm not sure isn't Isaiah Stewart from New York?
I think originally, yeah. See if I can't find that.
So I'm not sure if the family moved to be close to him during high school. So I guess that's the case probably.
Yeah, Rochester.
So maybe they moved here, I guess, to make that easier as well. But, of course, the Trace's in-home was rescheduled, as you heard, which that was a lot to get done anyway.
Well, when I saw that, I was like, he's going to do 3 in-home visits today? And it's like, it's not like these guys are neighbors. I mean, like you said, you got to travel a little bit to get there.
Yeah, I just
didn't see how that was going to be possible.
Timing, I mean, their schedules are pretty packed, but I guess they wanted to get them in before school started. Well, school's already started, so and at least their basketball season hasn't started. But I know they only have so many weekends, and they only have so many weekends left before the college season starts. We're not that far away. What is this, September 10th? What is today? So
2 weekends.
We're only 19 days, less than 3 weeks away. So it was 3 weeks, actually, from this past Saturday. The actual start. So, yeah, not a lot of time left for them to get out there and get after that stuff. So, gotta make hay when the sun's shining, so as the old saying goes, which is exactly what they're trying to do now.
What's the sun you speak of?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
We've heard about it. But those are some great visits, and can you imagine getting all 3 of those guys?
That'd be big.
Yeah, don't expect that to happen.
No. Isaiah Stewart's 90% Duke on Crystal Ball.
So, yeah. Now, Keon and Trace Jackson, yeah, I still think he gets both of those, and that's going to be a pretty daggone good class if he does. And to go along with Armand Franklin, all 3 guys from in-state Indiana, 4 and 5 stars. That's a pretty good haul.
That's all anyone ever wanted, right?
Exactly what everyone wanted, and that just gives you a basis of kids from Indiana with some other kids around it. But yeah, those are some good ones, and that bodes well for the future as well, obviously as well.
No doubt.
So we've got a lot coming up. We've got some football coming up again. We've got Sammy Jacobs is joining us. The top of our next segment, we're going to recap last week's game.
Remind me to show you this Tom Allen video and break.
I can't wait.
I mean, I don't know how you missed it. I mean, it was all the rage on Saturday night.
Talking about Tom Allen Jr. when I get Sammy on the line, when I rewatched that game, I didn't realize Tom Allen Jr. is, I don't know, I shouldn't say junior. I'm not sure it's junior, but it's Tom Allen's son. Tom played a lot and played well. Man, he was in the mix at linebacker a lot. He almost had a safety when they had Virginia down in the deep in their goal. Another great punt by Hayden Whitehead. quarterback barely escaped the end zone. Allen had his hands on him, but he had just gotten blocked and gotten up off of the ground from a block in time just to get his hand on him and slow the quarterback down for them to get him. They still stopped him like the 2. But, yeah, what a great play by him this weekend, I noticed. That's the thing when you go to a game. I have to go home and rewatch the game because it's a whole different viewpoint.
Right.
There's no replay hardly. I mean, there's some because I'm up in the press box, but there's TVs up there, but there's no sound. So you miss a lot from that regard. So I go back and rewatch and really get a better understanding of how the offense played, how the defense played, and then you can see people who stood out that you didn't really realize who stood out. Of course, didn't need that to know Stevie Scott stood out. What an outstanding day he had. So look forward to talking to Sammy about that. And then later in the week, we'll be talking about the Ball State game. May have to bring up Ball State Notre Dame a little bit today just to talk about that. I didn't get to see any of that. I wish I would have. I'd like to have seen what it was. Was it Ball State playing well? Was it Notre Dame playing not well? What was going on there?
I think likely a combination.
Well,
if I had to guess.
Well, yeah, I'm going to not guess. I'm going to find out because I want to know what it really was. That way, to form a better opinion of what to expect. Can't do that by guessing.
Nope.
So, looking forward to finding out what went on there and what the expectations are going to be. But getting a better indication of how things are going to go on for the Hoosiers. The defense got better, like I said. I think they have to continue to get much, much better because the line is doing okay. But, man, when they run up against a Michigan State, a Penn State, the size is going to change. And the depth level of the opposing team is going to change. So they're going to need a lot. Going to start getting a push. Last year they had one of the best defensive lines around. They were very, very vicious, penetrable. They were making plays all the time, getting to the quarterback. Haven't seen that this year yet. I don't think they've recorded. They may have recorded 1 sack over 2 games, which there wasn't a ton of passing by Virginia, but there was enough, and he scrambled enough that they could have gotten sacks, but I don't think they recorded a single one, to my knowledge.
Yeah, I can't think of one. I'm sitting here trying to. I can't.
But the defense, they played better. The linebackers played better, and watching them, rewatching the game, they really swarmed to the ball. The secondary did a good job. They limited the passing yards. So overall, they played pretty well. So.
I mean, and the thing about it was, my thing after that game ended on Saturday was, it wasn't pretty. Hoosier fans likely would have liked to win by more, but you got to win, and that's the most important thing at the end of the day.
Just win, baby. That's
right.
the name of the game. That's right. The name of the game. That's what we'll continue to do. We've got Sammy Jacobs coming up next. We're going to join us here from Hoosier Huddle, so stay tuned. Right after this, we'll be right back.
If he doesn't make the scene, he's got a daytime job. He's doing all right. He can play the honky-tonk like anything. Saving it up.
If you want to get your day off to a good start, then stop at Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. While you're filling your gas tank, you could fill your own tank with a hot breakfast or try one of Billy Joe's daily lunch special. Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart opens at 5 a.m. and everything is made fresh daily. And if you bring your own mug, coffee is only 50 cents. And Billy Joe's also has free air. The best place to start your day is at Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs.
Today's guest is brought to you by Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center, located 5 miles north of downtown Louisville, just off of I-65 at Veterans Parkway in Clarksville. Welcome back to the program here on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, Big X Sports Radio. Sammy Jacobs, Hoosier Huddle. Sammy, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. I'm ready for some sunshine. To be honest, I'm all sick of this rain.
There's that word again.
Dude, I'm telling you, by the time I got to the press box Saturday night, I was soaked up halfway up my ankles, and was reminded what a rookie move it was to not bring an extra pair of socks and shoes to a rain game, and it certainly was, because it took the entire game just to get dried out. So I can't imagine what it was like playing in that. But I wished I would have mentioned in the press conference afterwards to Coach Allen, how about the students? Dude, they were in their seats standing the minutes the gates opened, which is like an hour and a half before the game. I was shocked, and they were all like 1,000 strong. It was amazing.
Yeah, I got to watch TV. I was at a wedding this weekend, but I got to watch.
I didn't want to
the game.
remind you. I was going to, but
Yeah, I got to watch the game a couple of times on TV. It looked absolutely brutal, but yeah, the student section, it looked pretty packed for being a hurricane type weather. So a big shout out to them and they stayed. A lot of those students stayed for most of the game.
Oh, it was amazing. Just great to see them, and great to see the support that team, because the team put a battle out there. It was not the conditions were horrible. You couldn't always tell on TV how much, but it was raining pretty steady the whole time. So I can't imagine what it's like to I can. I've done it, but it's not fun to be in those conditions and it just not let up. You finally just like, golly, you just rain soaked the whole time. But it pushed in both teams to resorting to a running type of offense for most of the night, which was a huge benefit for Stevie Scott, who picked a great game to break out. What a breakout performance by the freshman.
Yeah, given the weather, I thought IU would run the ball close to 50 times. They ran at 44. And Stevie Scott got the bulk of the carries at 31, and he had 204 yards, which was 3 yards off the true freshman record that Anthony Thompson set. Averaged 6.6 yards per carry with a touchdown, and he broke off a couple long runs, which is something that after the first game you were hoping to see more of this season, was him flash a little bit more speed. He had that long touchdown run, and then another long run later in the game, and it was a slow track, but he still outran a pretty fast defense.
And it gave, especially after Indiana has lost their numbers 1 and 2 running backs, it gives them a lot of confidence going forward to have that. But as we get closer to the Big Ten season, that's a lot of the load to ask of a freshman. I know he's probably not going to carry the ball 31 times a game, but that's a pretty good load.
That is, and especially considering that he was the only other running back. He was the only running back to get carries on Saturday night. The only other 2 players with carries were Peyton Ramsey and Reese Taylor. I thought that IU would spread the ball out a little bit more, but they went to the well with what worked with Stevie Scott. But yeah, I think they need to open up the running back room a little bit more. They have some capable guys, and they just fed the hot hand on Saturday, and it worked.
Yeah, I think that a lot of things they did were partly a lot of it to do with the rain. Obviously, you're going to try to ball security is of utmost performance in a game like that, and Virginia put the ball on the ground 3 times, and it was costly. Indiana did not turn the ball over hardly. They had a pick. And I think 1 fumble, but it was not recovered, so it wasn't costly to them. The defense was able to stop them on the pick, I think. But there were several balls that were up in the air that could have been intercepted after I rewatched that game.
Yeah, there were. One of them I think was called back on a pass interference penalty. There was another screen pass that you just held your breath that you hope the guy doesn't catch and return for a touchdown. And then there were just several. It was a tough day to throw the ball, so you give Peyton Ramsey the benefit of the doubt there. But there are some passes that that just hung up there a little too long and allowed the defense to make a play on the ball, whether it was knocking a pass down, making a hit on a guy that made him drop the ball. Yeah, he was 16 to 22, but some of those throws he got away with a little too much.
And we keep hearing how his experience and whatnot is the deciding factor over Michael Penix. But the more and more I'm like, you know what? I don't know how much that the pick he did throw, man, that had no. I don't know where that was going because that had no chance to go anywhere but to the defender. So I'm not really seeing that.
Well, I'll give Peyton Ramsey credit for one thing. He's won the first 2 games. He's bounced back after throwing picks. He threw a really nice ball to Donovan Hale for a touchdown. He threw a nice ball to Nick Westbrook for a touchdown. They're going to need both of these guys to win. And I think it's a little surprised that they didn't put Penix in. I understand why they didn't do it. It's just tough conditions. They trust Ramsey a little bit more right now. And, he got the job done, even though they didn't score any points in the second half. They scored enough in the first half that they're okay. There are bigger concerns to me about this team right now than Peyton Ramsey's arm.
What are those concerns?
Probably field goal protection. They had 2 kicks blocked. One of the kicks, got returned for 2 points on the extra point. Before that kick happened, there was a false start on it was either Britt Beery or Wes Martin on the kickoff. That one gets blocked, gets returned for 2 points, and then late in the game, IU trying to put points on the board, make it a 23-9 game, which makes it a lot more comfortable. Would have been a full touchdown score if it played out like it did at 23-16, and that got blocked. So those are the things that if you want to win Big Ten games, you can't do. So that to me is the bigger concern than Peyton Ramsey. Lollipop and throws a little bit here and there in bad weather, but if he comes out and it's 85 and sunny on Saturday and is still making those throws, sure, it's you could talk about maybe switching roles with Michael Penix, but there are definitely bigger concerns, especially in the kicking game that we saw on Saturday that reared its ugly head. It kind of looked like 2016 again.
On the defensive side, the defense, they seem to play a lot better. They definitely, statistically wise, held Virginia to under 300 yards total offense. A quarterback that was definitely a dual threat. And he got his yards running, 135, but for the most part, they kept him contained. The linebackers seemed to grow up a little bit in this game. I rewatched the game, too, and I tell you who really stood out to me was, I didn't realize, Thomas Allen. Man, he was everywhere.
Yeah, I thought the defense played really well, and it's kind of like when you go into a game playing LeBron. I'm not saying that Bryce Perkins is LeBron, but you kind of know that LeBron's going to get his, probably score 30 points, grab 8 rebounds, and get 8 assists. And what they did really well was win everybody else. Bryce Perkins had 123 yards rushing, 106 yards passing, but he averaged 4.4 yards a pass, which is not terrible. Jordan Ellis only had 63 yards rushing. And then receiving-wise, no receiver had over 50 yards receiving. So they've limited all his weapons. They let Bryce Perkins not run wild, but he got his, and they took care of the supporting crew, and it worked really well. They got 9 tackles for a loss, which was encouraging, and a sack, so they were making plays behind the line of scrimmage. They had a couple of balls that maybe could have been intercepted. They had some chances to get some fumbles that were on the ground that just didn't bounce their way, but they got their takeaway, scored 7 points off of it, or 6 points, because of the blocked field goal. But I thought the defense played pretty well, and people are they're not giving them enough credit. Look, if people are gonna blast them for being young and not being able to make plays, you got to give them credit where credit is due. And coming coming out against Virginia on a slick field and getting 9 tackles for a loss against a team that people were really worried that would run all over them and hold them to under 300 yards. It really held them to, 14 points. If they don't block the kick, it's 14, and then if you don't throw that interception, outside of that first touchdown, it's 7 points. So the defense played really well.
Yeah, and I thought if they got to this point, 2-0, they going 3-0 would be pretty easy with Ball State coming up. But after this weekend, Ball State gave Notre Dame a good game and made this upcoming game look a little more difficult than what was expected.
Well, people called me crazy yesterday. Ball State might be pretty good. And they had lost 7 starters last year due to injury. It was a terrible injury year for them. Riley Neal, their quarterback, is a guy who I actually like watching a lot. He's got prototypical quarterback size. He has a big arm. Justin Gilbert's a nice running back. They have some weapons. They lost their corners from early in the year last year, and they played pretty hard those first 3 games last year, and then everybody got hurt, and they just got decimated. So I'm not really shocked that Ball State is playing really well to start the year. I also think Notre Dame might be a little overrated at 8. Sure, they beat Michigan, but Michigan was a little overrated as well. But we'll see. It's going to be a battle. They're going to be fired up for this. It's an in-state game. Ball State always comes in and plays tough. They had won 3 of the last 4, prior 3 in a row prior to 2016, and that was a 30-20 game. And we'll see. I expect a dogfight on Saturday afternoon in Bloomington.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit more challenging than a lot of people had thought. Hopefully the weather's better and Indiana can use more of its weapons, and hopefully we can see Michael Penix again and the defense continues to grow. But what's going to be the biggest challenge against this Ball State team? After seeing Indiana play 2 games now, although a muted one against Virginia because of the weather, we at least got to see the offense, got to see the defense. What do you expect in this game coming up now?
Ball State has a good rushing attack. They rushed for over 300 yards in their opener, 169 yards, although 3.6 yards per carry is not great. Against Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's defense is pretty well. They limited Ball State pretty well. Can they, go blow to blow for a little bit and pull away? Ball State may be one of these teams where if you can score early and build a big lead, they may pack it in. But if you let them hang around, they're going to be tough. They finished that fourth quarter pretty well. After losing the third quarter 10-0, they came back and scored 10 points in the fourth quarter. So they could be a pretty tough team. 10 tackles for loss. So that's probably the biggest concern. Is this offense has to get positive plays. They haven't been stopped behind the line of scrimmage a lot by their opponents. So that's going to be one. And then they have a ball hawking defense. 3 interceptions last week against Notre Dame. So whoever's the quarterback for Indiana, they have to be accurate. This team will hold on to interceptions, and we'll see. It's going to be I think a dogfight.
It's definitely one that they cannot afford to lose if they have any intentions on making a bowl this year. Sammy Jacobs from Hoosier Huddle. Appreciate you as always. Look forward to talking to you again at the end of the week, and we'll preview the game more intently with Ball State coming up.
All right. Thanks, Jim. Enjoy your Monday.
Thank you as well. Sammy Jacobs from Hoosier Huddle getting us caught up over the weekend, recapping the Virginia win for Indiana. We'll be back later in the week, and we'll talk about the Ball State game a little bit more intently. Coming up on the program today, we've got John Boel from Wave 3 TV and Don Fischer, the voice of the Indiana Hoosiers. Make sure you stay tuned here on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. Big X Sports Radio is coming right back.
15 cars, the girls come easy and the drugs come cheap. We'll all stay skinny cause we just won't eat. And we'll hang out in the coolest bars at the VIP with the movie stars. Every good gold digger's gonna wind up there. Every playboy bunny with a bleached blonde hair. And we'll hide out in the
Hey, if you're in the market for a new truck or tractor, car, or ATV, you need to be at Hollis Auction Service on November the 10th. Located on Highway 150 in Greenville, just west of Highway 335, Hollis Auction Service also needs items for the auction. If you're looking to sell, call Billy Joe Hollis today at 502-664-1606. That's 502-664-1606. Make sure you're at Hollis Auction Service in Greenville on November 10th. Today's guest is brought to you by Brooks Roofing, the protection you need when Mother Nature strikes. BrooksRoofingIN.com. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here on Big X Sports Radio. Joined now by John Boel from Wave 3 Television. John, how are you, brother?
Oh, I'm in a fantastic mood, man.
A lot better than you were Saturday when you were watching the Wisconsin game?
When I wasn't watching the Wisconsin game. Even though Spectrum Cable listed Channel 920 and all the others as New Mexico at Wisconsin, and they were showing us instead sorry Purdue getting beat by Eastern something, Eastern Michigan, whatever.
Oh, yeah, it's just brutal. A lot of people complaining, not getting to see games over the weekend. And then having to watch games that they really wish they weren't watching. But yeah.
And then I missed the game of the year already last night on NBC on my own station.
Oh, the NFL game?
Oh my gosh!
Your
man.
Packers, your Bears?
Yeah. I woke up once to go to the bathroom like 75 times a night, like old men with prostate issues do, and I look at my phone, and Rodgers is carted off, and they're down 20-0. And then I get on the phone. I get back up to go to the bathroom the next time, and Rodgers has won the game, like he always does.
Came back with a white hat on. Did he come back out with a white hat on?
No, he just came back with the best arm that the NFL has ever seen. Best arm since Dan Marino. Unbelievable, man. My favorite thing in football for about the past, I'd say 4 or 5 years, is to either watch or not watch the Packers, but to be monitoring the game. And then, as a Packers fan, to know that with the Packers down, needing a touchdown to win or tie, with anywhere from 2 minutes to 35 seconds left in the game, whatever it is, to know that I'm going to sit down here and watch Aaron Rodgers pull this game out every single time. Every time is the greatest feeling. To literally know that he's going to do it is like the greatest thing in sports. Can you name for me the last time you watched a last-minute Aaron Rodgers rally go 4 downs and out, turn it over and downs, game over? Do you even remember the last time that happened?
No, unfortunately not.
I can't ever think of one of these, twice against Dallas, multiple times against Chicago, playoffs, Arizona, Motown Miracle, whatever. Every single time he does it. Like, they never go drive, couple first downs, 4 and out, game's over. It just doesn't happen.
Can't win if you don't. You go 4 and out. You can't leave those indelible marks, and he's trying to do that. He's trying to become one of those guys like we think of Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and those guys. He's trying to go down in history.
He's done this. Like, if you look at like the top 10, Aaron Rodgers finishes, whatever. He's got like at least 8 better than Brady or Manning or anybody. Like, when you got like the length of against Arizona. Now, they didn't win the game because it went to overtime, and the defense let what's his face go the distance. Not Fitzpatrick, Fitzgerald. They let Fitzgerald go for like 80 in like the first play of overtime. But like in that game, he's got like the length of the field to go, and he's only got time for like 2 plays, and he's got the worst 2. The entire receiving core is depleted. He's down to the last 2 guys on the depth chart who never play all year, and they're lining tight ends up at wideout. They're so depleted, and he still goes down the field in 2 plays and scores a touchdown. Like, it's just amazing what you see the guy do.
Yeah, it's always something. always something to watch those kind of games just to be able to see that comeback because it just adds so much anticipation to the game. It makes it that much more fun. Back on the college scene, how about your Wisconsin Badgers? They're making it through so far.
Yeah, they were slow early on, but they ran for 417 yards in the game, and they're just dominant. But you can't tell anything out of these games. You got to watch the games where there are quality opponents against people, and what we're learning so far is the SEC is great. And I'm one of these guys that's always arguing Big Ten against them, but they're great. And the Big Ten is awful. I mean, you could tell right away Northwestern wasn't good. What, they lose to Duke this weekend?
Yeah, and then and they beat Purdue, and now Purdue has lost their opening
Purdue
two
has
games.
lost. Yeah. Nebraska's no good.
Michigan is obviously down.
Michigan's not good.
Ohio State is the only solid team, and I don't know what Penn State really has because they struggled against App State to open up the season.
Right. They struggled. They should have lost against App State. Michigan State lost. They're not good. It's the same old thing. It's Wisconsin and Ohio State. So, and the quality of the SEC is, even like your Mississippi States, Kentucky. I mean, there's some good teams.
Well, you have to give it to Kentucky. What a huge win for them, knocking off Florida in Florida.
Yeah, I watched that whole game. I watched way too much football this weekend. I bet I logged a good 10 hours plus over 2 days watching everything. And it was weird. The Florida game was weird. Like, I don't understand. Like the field goal for Florida that turned out to be a crucial field goal that they called wide. I thought that was a good field goal. I thought that was in from every video angle. I thought it was weird that when they were going for that, when Florida was going for the 2-point conversion late, the quarterback had a wide open guy right in front of his face, waving his hand wildly. Looked like the play was supposed to go to him, and he stops and does a throwback clear across the field, incomplete. It was just a weird game, but I thought Kentucky was the better team anyway. They deserved to win.
And they certainly did, getting that monkey off their back. I don't know how long that streak had grown to, but pretty substantial.
It was 31. It was 31 and counting. It was 1986 was the last time they won.
Wow. Well, I'm sure they're happy about that. Louisville gets a win as well, but now they may have a quarterback controversy in Louisville.
Yeah, it sounds like they do. And I was just sampling some of the feedback and everything, and that. One thing I don't agree with is, Louisville they took so many breaks because of the lightning delay that they were not in groove. Well, the other team had the same thing. Other team had the same exact situation to deal with, and somebody during the game tweeted out Indiana State's record, their results last year. They lost every game. I think they lost every single game.
I think they were over 0-11.
Yeah, and they were against terrible teams. So, they tied at halftime against U of L. You got to adjust your expectations now. That's horrible. That's beyond horrible.
And now you've got teams like Florida State coming in. You got Clemson coming in, the number 2 team in the country. Some of those games can get really bad for Louisville.
Well, Florida State's horrible too. They were nationally televised. Should have lost to Samford. So they're not good. I loved the Texas A&M game against Clemson. I love the volume level of Texas A&M Stadium. You say what you want about your big stadiums like Tennessee and Michigan and Bama and all that. The crowd noise level at A&M is something special.
The 12th man, baby. They got the 12th man.
I know. That was something. I thought they got jobbed in that game. That guy goes in for a touchdown, or goes in going to get a touchdown, fumbles it out of bounds, and they call it a fumble through the end zone. Thought that was a terrible call. Probably changed the game for them. So I don't just there was some weird, and the officiating was making me so mad yesterday watching the NFL that I finally had to turn it off. I saw flags. There were flags for hits too high. There were flags for hits too low. There were flags I saw a flag for grabbing the wrong part of the jersey. And I saw a flag in the Minnesota game. The guy comes through the line and is blocked into the quarterback and just wraps his arms around the quarterback, and they both go down. They go back. The quarterback goes backwards, go down, and they flagged the Minnesota guy because he put his body weight on him. when there was no other way to do the play. He was like, they were both falling, and he fell on him as he's making the tackle. No, you can't put your body weight on a quarterback in the NFL. So I don't know how guys play defense anymore in the NFL. It's just impossible.
Well, I was watching it was the Alabama-Louisville game last week, and a defender was already in mid-flight as the throw's being made, tackles the quarterback by the ankles, and is called for unnecessary roughness.
That's right. I remember that play, and they said it was hit too low, and the reason why it was low was because the quarterback jumped on the play. The quarterback jumped to make the pass. So what are you supposed to do? The one thing the refs aren't figuring here, these are guys running around the field with 4.4, 4.5 speed, closing on each other in some cases. There's no time to adjust to a different part of the body. It's just it's impossible. It's a joke.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. If they can make the call, they have to, certainly the gosh, they have to understand there's a reason for some of these and be able to see that. That one or grabbing the guy by the ankles, I don't care what. If you got him by the ankles, you're obviously not intending to do harm. So it's gotten a little ridiculous. Anything coming up?
And then we sit there.
Go ahead.
And then, I was going to say, we sit there and then watch 17 different slow-mo replays of a controversial call, and and we nitpick it. Oh, his helmet touched him.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't realize that plays happening in a split second with a guy running a 4.4.
Right. It's crazy. Anything you're working on that you can talk about?
Nope. I got something coming up, and it looks like about 2 weeks. It's undercover, and no, I cannot talk about it.
Love it. John Boel from Wave 3 News. Appreciate you joining us. Look forward to talking to you next week, man.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, John Boel from Wave 3 News. Coming up next on the program, we have got Don Fischer, the voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, and Justin Kalen's right here with us.
That's right.
You're waving something to me.
Just letting you know. Let's keep it here for a bit.
That's well, I thought you were saying, but wasn't positive. Looking forward to talking to Don about the game over the weekend. He got to call the thing and sit there, and they get to sit there with their windows open.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing when I'm in the press box that I hate. There's no sound. They don't have sound on overhead, and the TVs don't have the sound up. I've got to find a way to get a Don Fischer broadcast, but I'd want it to be in sync with what's going on.
That'd be hard to do.
So that's the problem, is you don't want to be 5, 6, 7 seconds behind, because then you're an entire play behind.
Yeah.
It's not like you can stop live action, put it on pause for 7 seconds.
Then you're going right back to week 1 where you had to look at the roster to see who was who, and you miss another play.
Yeah. It wasn't as bad this week, partly because Indiana's jerseys were red with the white letters, and the white just really stood out.
Yeah, they did.
So it was helpful knowing that there are 2 number 9s on the field and knowing which one is which. That was helpful. Not as much complaining this week about that. But
why do you think that is?
Because it was raining and you couldn't see anybody anyway. I mean, that's
fair enough.
And probably not a lot of people were watching that game. That was just not a. But that's. Plus, it is what it is. It's a matter. It's already been brought up, talked about, beat to death. Now what are you going to do about it? I mean, there's no point in me talking about it anymore.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is, I found myself what little I did get to watch. You kind of remember some from last week. There's going to be players that'll start to stand out numbers wise. You just got to have patience. I mean, it sucks. Yeah, I'd rather have the names, but you can make it work with the numbers.
Yeah, because I'm not getting the playing for the name on the front business. Whether their names are on their back, that just does not filter into the equation whatsoever. The only thing I give a crap about their name being on the back is identification. Yeah. It's just pure and simple. It's just ease for the fans, for the game experience. But yeah, there's no point in that. That's a discussion that's already been had, and
don't beat a dead horse.
Yeah, there's no point in it. But Don Fischer joining us on the way back when we come back here on the program. Looking forward to talking to Don about this past weekend's game. Got the first home game under the belt. I'm sure it was good for them to be back in friendly confines, which they will be for the next 2 weeks now, a 3-week homestand for Indiana, as now they welcome Ball State in this Saturday, and then that's followed a week later by the Michigan State Spartans as the Hoosiers open up Big Ten play. So I'm looking forward to it, and again, I'm still not sold on Peyton Ramsey as the starting quarterback. I'm ready for Penix. Just put him in, let him go, let him see. Let's see what happens. I want to see what happens. I don't want him to come in for 2 series in the third quarter. Let him play. I want to see what happens because I know what Ramsey can do. Ramsey is going to do what he's supposed to do. He's going to hit that 10-yard pass, the 5-yard pass, the 11-yard pass. But I want to see a guy that's going to throw an 18, 20-yard pass, not be throwing a 5-yard pass and needing 7 yards after the catch. That's just an offense I'm tired of seeing. Yeah. I saw it a lot last year. It's not going to get you any place special. That's my thoughts. Feel free to give us your opinion on the text line, 502-414-1450.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
That's what Joker did. I was going to say, to that point, with Penix and Ramsey, Notre Dame played 2 different quarterbacks in Game 1 and Game 2. Joker heard that it was experimental, hence probably why that Ball State game was a lot closer than it should have been.
Maybe.
So you wouldn't want IU to do the same thing, put Penix in to start, and then they somehow find a way to lose that game. Then it's going to fall on Penix squarely on his shoulders when, in all reality, it likely wouldn't be his fault at all.
It's not true. It might be, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think, and if it's going south, it's not going to take you 3 quarters to know it's going south.
Right.
So
make a change.
Let's see what can happen. I just think that Peyton Ramsey has a ceiling that he's very close to. I think Michael Penix has a ceiling that he's not close to. And I think that will bode very well for Indiana if they cut him loose. Let's take a break. When we come back, we've got Don Fischer that's going to be joining us here on the program. Stay tuned for Don. We've already had Sammy Jacobs. So we've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle right after this. Stay tuned.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here on Big X Sports Radio 1450 96.1. Joined by the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer. Don, how are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. Glad to see you made it through that torrential downpour that you had to call Saturday night. What a rainfall that was.
It was not pretty, to say the least, and I've got to pretty much go through and make up all my stat charts and everything again because my format for it was fine, but unfortunately I used some colored pens and things like that, and it's a mess.
I can imagine. That rain, I don't know if everyone who was watching on TV could tell how torrential. The rains, first of all, they didn't stop and just continued throughout the entire game.
Yeah, I had 2 of my sons and friends that sat in it the entire time. They said it did not stop until we were walking out of the stadium, and that was at the end of the ball game. So they were able to fight through it, but it was a mess out there, and no question about that. It was difficult, I'm sure, for the players in some respects too, because as everyone knows, it's tough to hang on to the football. The interesting thing was, really, there were only, I think, 1 fumble and 1 interception in this ball game, everybody was able to take care of that aspect of it, take care of the football, despite the problems that you would have hanging on to it. So, Yeah, it was a factor in the ball game, but it was a terrific win for Indiana, no question about that. And the Hoosiers certainly wanted to have that second win in a row and keep the thing going here momentum-wise at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely, ball security huge. And before I forget, how about this Indiana students? The gates opened, and they all came in, and they were all at their seats. This is like an hour and a half before this game when it was raining, and they never left. I was amazed by the student support on this game.
Yeah, and that's something that you've got to have. If you're going to have a successful program, the student body has got to get involved. Your fan base has got to be there as well. That wasn't as good as we would have liked to seen it, but you understand that Indiana football over the years has never had quite the support that basketball has had, and not even close, to be honest about it. But there's always been a really faithful group of people that do show up for ball games, and it's got to build. And Tom Allen's after that. He wants it to build just like everybody else does. At this juncture, it's not where it needs to be, but it's certainly gotten better.
And getting to the game, I don't even have to ask a question. I just have to say 2 words: Stevie Scott.
Well, a terrific performance by this young man, a kid that came to Indiana after basically sitting out his whole senior year of high school football with an injury. And not really. Tom Allen has already said that on a couple of occasions, we really didn't know if we were going to get anything out of this young man the first season that he was at IU. But he's a big, strong kid. He's 6'2", about 235 pounds, and he's got a burst to him on top of just being that big and strong young man. And he really showed it on Saturday night against Virginia. And he just made so many runs that were impressive, and a big part of that was the offensive line. They also showed up on Saturday night, and they were much better than they were in the opening ball game of the season. They actually dominated the line of scrimmage a good portion of this ball game. So you got to give the offensive line as much credit as you do Stevie Scott. You wouldn't have 204 yards, the second-best rushing performance by a true freshman ever at Indiana University if you didn't have an offensive line that was doing its job. So both of those aspects of it from a rushing standpoint were critical in this football game.
And he talked about that after the game in the post-game press conference with the players. And also for him to do it on a night with the conditions the way they were and for the line to perform the way they did. Not very many penalties, opened the holes like you said, and then Stevie Scott took advantage and did what he needed to do. But very tough conditions to do all that, and they did it all quite well.
Yeah, there's no question. I think the defensive performance in this ball game was also a big factor. A much improved defensive effort in this contest based on what we saw on Saturday night over the first ball game against Florida International. And what I liked about it is that everybody seemed to get a little bit better. And one of the things that has always been a credo of coaches and people who have been around football is that the most improvement made during a season is from the first game to the second game, and I don't think there's any question. We saw a lot of that on Saturday night for Indiana. The defensive performance in this ball game, really, really solid. You were taking on a kid that had passed for 2 touchdowns and ran for 2 more the week before and just dominated a team in Richmond. We're talking about Bryce Perkins, the quarterback for Virginia, and had just a tremendous opening performance. And he showed himself in this ball game too. He had 123 net rushing yards in the contest, but his longest was 47. But he didn't do it on a consistent basis, and Indiana made him earn virtually every yard that he carried for. The other kid, the running back for Virginia, who had 140-plus yards in the ball game against Richmond, he was held to 63 yards in this contest. So there are 2 main guys, and they're big. And the attack that we expected to see from them, which was basically the run game, did not come to fruition to the point where they could really hurt Indiana in this ball game. Now, he was 12 for 24 passing. We're talking about Perkins again. He did throw for 2 touchdowns, the only 2 that they had. But at the same time, he did not consistently perform because Indiana's defense, I think, took that away.
Yeah, and I rewatched the game, and when I was doing the defense, the linebackers especially, they really were swarming. And I tell you a name that I saw a lot, or number 44, I should say a number. I saw a lot, 44, Thomas Allen. man, he was everywhere, flying around the ball and almost had a safety on Perkins.
Yep. I mean, Thomas is a good athlete. He's smart. He knows what he's doing out there. He was only credited for two tackles in the ball game, but you're right. I mean, he made a lot of forced a lot of hurried plays for Virginia. I think everybody did a really good job in this ball game, and take Jonathan Crawford to the bank as one of your best players in the Big Ten. This senior is just terrific. He had 7 tackles. He led Indiana in that category on Saturday night. He had a terrific first game in which, of course, he had a pick 6, along with being a solid performer in the backfield. He calls a lot of the signals back there as well. There's no question everybody got better in this football game. The linebacking core, I think you were right about that. And they got some play from a true freshman in Micah McFadden, who came in and did a terrific job. This kid's going to be a player, too, and made some real key tackles in this ball game and a couple of other plays as well, both on special teams and at the linebacking role. So we're seeing a lot of guys step up here, and it's going to have to continue because this team still has a long way to go in the improvement department because of the lack of experience and the lack of, the true freshman status of so many of these guys. Freshmen and redshirt freshmen, they continue to play. So all of these things come into the fact that this is a good football team, but it's still young and inexperienced, and they've got a long way to go in getting to the point where they are really going to be a factor throughout the Big Ten season.
The special teams came into play not so good on the place kicking with a couple of kicks blocked, but Hayden Whitehead, from the punting standpoint, he did a phenomenal job of getting Indiana out of some trouble and keeping Virginia in a little bit of trouble throughout the game.
Yeah, he has, Buck, I think, said it best during the contest on Saturday night. This guy is a very unselfish kid. A lot of people don't like the fact, a lot of punters don't like the fact that their numbers suffer when they have to pooch kick it or pooch punt it, try to get it done inside the 10-yard line, those kinds of things. This kid just works at that like crazy and kicks it away from receivers, that type of stuff. He does a great job. He's not worried about his statistics. He's just worried about the end product. And that's an unselfish football player and a guy that understands how important his role is on the team to do the right thing. He's not worried about his own stats. And you're right, Hayden did a great job in this ball game. But we did see some special teams negativity in the sense that they had a blocked extra point and a blocked field goal in this ball game. That's something that's got to stop. And again, a lot of that's a product of youth or mistakes that are made by guys that are just not as experienced as they need to be. That will get better, I would think, but it's going to have to get better because you can't have that throughout the season.
And offensively, there wasn't a lot of passing, but a lot of receivers caught a ball the other night. I think 7 different receivers caught a pass at least, and Donovan Hale catches another touchdown reception.
Well, that's an interesting story in itself because Hale, of course, has been around for a long time. He's a redshirt junior. He's a guy that has had a little success while he's been at Indiana, but not a great deal of it. And yet all of a sudden he looks like the go-to guy for Peyton Ramsey. He's got 4 catches in this ball game, one of those for a touchdown, and a couple of those catches have been spectacular, as everyone knows, from the first ball game. He just looks like he's grown into himself. He's not hurt. That's one of the big problems that he's had throughout his career. And he's been healthy now, and he just looks like a dominant-type receiver. He very much looks like Sammy Cobbs did a year ago. Luke Timian continues to impress. He always makes tough, important catches in a ball game. But you're right, they had 9 different players make receptions in this football game. That's a big story in itself. That means that Peyton Ramsey is seeing the whole field and passing the ball to whoever he finds open. He was 16 of 22 in the ball game for 150 yards. He did throw 2 touchdowns. He threw an interception, and he threw another pass that could have been picked or should have been picked. It did not get picked, but that's the good news. But that one throw that he made for the interception was silly on his part. I'm sure he's the first to tell you that because that was totally ill-advised. But the good news is Indiana's defense stepped up, and they didn't get a touchdown or a score after that.
And I think Indiana's defense is going to have to continue to improve as this week Ball State comes in, which normally would probably not have looked like that big of a game on paper, but they gave Notre Dame all they wanted last week, so I think it's going to be a game that's a little tougher than a lot of people may expect.
Well, if anybody takes MAC teams lightly, they are silly. Look what Eastern Michigan did to Purdue on Saturday, and it's happened many years over the years. Every good football team in the Big Ten that's taken on a MAC team and gone in there and probably not given them the respect that they deserved had all kinds of problems, and many losses came out of that, including Indiana's lost some games against MAC teams over the years that should not have been lost. And not too long ago, it happened up at Lucas Oil Stadium, if you remember, when Indiana played Ball State a few years ago when Kevin Wilson first got here, and Ball State came in and kicked Indiana's butt in that stadium. So I don't think Ball State will be taken lightly, and especially after their performance against Notre Dame, I don't know how you could possibly take them lightly going into this ball game. And they're going to be a tough team. They had 97 plays against Notre Dame on Saturday. That's ball control.
Yes,
and obviously, if that happens against Indiana, the Hoosiers will have a tough time scoring the football. So Indiana's going to have to find a way to get them stopped and keep them from having the football in their possession that many times.
Yeah, to give you an indication, I think Indiana had 66 plays last week in last week's game.
Exactly. I mean, it just shows you that you've got to be able to get stops. You can't let a team control the football, and that tells you how important possession of time is and those kinds of things in a football game, and a lot of people don't ever look at that, but it's a critical factor.
Don, we appreciate you joining us each week as you do this week, and look forward to it next time.
Well, we look forward to Ball State on Saturday. It's a 12 noon kickoff. That's something I really like. I don't like 7 o'clock games at night. I'd much rather play at 12 noon, and we're going to get that this coming Saturday.
Looking forward to it. Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, thank you so much, Don. We appreciate you.
You bet, Jen. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Don Fischer, the voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, getting us caught up there on the Virginia game as well. Looking forward to that, and always looking forward to get to talk to Don as he's been behind the microphone for 45 years now, so he's seen a little bit.
A little bit.
But, yeah, looking forward to the game this week now as they'll take on the Ball State Cardinals, which that game has turned into a game more than what I expected it would have been 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that game's going to be more than we expected it to be, and something tells me that Michigan State's not going to be as much as we thought it would be.
I don't know. It's still a Big Ten game, and a Big Ten conference games are just conference games. They're tough. Those teams are just – they're always going to be tough no matter what, win, lose, or otherwise. They're going to be tough beatdowns when you play those kind of games. The guys are just so much bigger and faster and stronger. It's a beatdown every time you play. And we've got coming up this week a lot more. Chronic Hoosier will be with us tomorrow. Also, we may be talking to Todd Leary again. So looking forward to all that. And Drew Davis will be with us at the end of the week to get caught up on all the recruiting information as well. Stay tuned. Coming up next, you got Kentucky Roll Call, Nick Roush and TJ Walker. This is Jim Coyle, and I'll see you on the radio.